The Graham Ashcraft decision continues to prove a point that we've been saying now for a few months.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You're Locked On Reds, your daily source for all things Cincinnati Reds. I'm Stephen Offenbaker. He's Jeff Carr. We love baseball. We love these Cincinnati Reds. We have taken that love for the game, that love for this team. We've turned it into information for you. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, click that like button right now. Jump down there, like button, notification bell, subscribe button. Make sure you don't miss a single episode of the Locked On Reds podcast. If you're in the audio feed, make sure you click subscribe, leave us a review. We love hearing from you, and we love you helping share this show with those around you. On today's podcast, we are going to be talking pitching as we look at the rise and fall of Graham Ashcraft. The impacts on his demotion have far-reaching effects, not only on the starting rotation, but the bullpen. We're going to be looking at where the Reds go from here, and we're also going to answer the question, is it time for the Reds to have someone other than Alexis Diaz close games? Before we get into any of that, let's shout out the sponsor of today's episode. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedonmlb and use the promo code, all lowercase, lockedonmlb, for a first deposit match of up to $100. All right, Jeff, we've been kind of hinting around the Graham Ashcraft situation for a while you were out in the middle of the Caribbean on a cruise ship getting your drink package on. Graham Ashcraft had a start last Thursday, and it did not go well. And when David Bell went out to get him, there looked to be some animosity between David Bell and Graham Ashcraft. Now, it could have just been that Graham was upset for getting yanked and having a bad start and all of the normal reasons that a starting pitcher would be upset. However, he was then demoted to Louisville. So maybe there is something to that.
I find it interesting, Steve, and it proves a couple of different things here, I think. Demoting Graham Ashcraft proves, first and foremost, just something that we've been saying for a few months now, and that is that Nick Krall is in control of this team. Yeah. Because this is not a move that Bob Castellini would have signed off for, 5-6 years ago. Because Graham Ashcraft is beloved. Graham Ashcraft is a fan favorite. Yeah, he's fan favorite. Yeah. You put those titles on a guy, that is a title that Bob does not say, okay, yeah, you can send him to Louisville. You got to let him pitch through these struggles. It also shows that the Reds are in win now mode, because last year he's allowed to pitch through these struggles. In fact, last year he pitched through an even worse stretch. He had 8 games where he had a 12.5 ERA. He's in the middle of a slump right now, Steve, where his last 6 starts, he has had over a 6 ERA. And that's really what's ballooned the numbers that you see for his season totals currently right now. But by saying that this moment, they are not going to let him just continue to go out there and continue to do what he has been doing and struggle through what he has been struggling through and say, you can work on stuff in Louisville, is showing the urgency, something that we have said that they have need to shown. They're showing it right now. And I love this decision. And kind of on the Graham Ashcraft side of things, the personal side of things, he is a guy that I always kind of wondered about. Like, when he hits struggles, it seems to take him a minute to kind of get back, right? He's that kind of a pitcher that when things aren't going right, he gets frustrated. And that's fine. That's a normal human emotion. When things don't go, when slow cars get in front of me on my way to Taco Bell, I need that Taco Bell, Steve, and they are going too slow, and I get frustrated.
Having been with you when you've driven to Taco Bell, that's totally true. There is some hangry rage going on when you're trying to get to the drive-thru.
Right. And so there's a little bit less pressure for me driving to Taco Bell than when Graham Ashcraft's got two guys on base and the Reds are down by one, and he needs to make sure that it stays down by one and not down by 3 or 4 or more. But more often than not, that deficit grows. And I feel like his emotional reaction to being pulled from that game was just adding on to the fact that he had been struggling, that he's had 6 straight starts that have been rough, and that he's looking at this and he's probably feeling more and more pressure with every out that he doesn't get.
Yeah, there's some precedents for this. Last year he had a similar stretch of games where he was clearly in his head. He was clearly emotional for different reasons. And we've hashed out what was going on with him at the time. But he had to be away. He had to take a step away, and he had an injury that allowed him to go. And for the listeners on the audio side, I air quoted that. He had an injury, wink, that got him out of the position for a bit. And when he came back, he was good Graham Ashcraft again. There's some precedents for this. In his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times out, Jeff, the difference between him and an Andrew Abbott or anybody else in this rotation really right now is he's not improving. He's not getting any better. In his last 5 starts, Jeff, 4 innings pitched, 3 runs allowed, 5 innings pitched, 3 runs allowed, 5.1 innings pitched, 5 runs allowed, 4.2, 3 runs allowed, 3.2, 4 runs allowed. He has not improved. He is not trending in the right direction. He doesn't look to have made any forward progress. He doesn't look to have made any adjustments. And I agree with you. This is a move from the front office that says we believe this team can get back in the hunt. We believe this team can still win this division. 2, we're not going to sit around and wait for a guy to figure it out at the major league level. We're going to make a move to put the best team on the field that we can put on the field right this minute. 3, they still believe in Graham Ashcraft. They are sending him down to work on things. He's still in the long-term plans for this team. Right. He's still the goal. I am positive the goal is to get him down to Louisville, let him clear his head, let him work on whatever he feels like he needs to work on with minor league hitters that aren't going to impact a playoff run. And then when he's got it figured out, he can come back, because we're going to get into this later. There's not a lot of other options really vying for a spot in this Reds rotation. So I need for Graham Ashcraft to go down and take this very, very seriously. I hope he receives it in the manner in which I think the Reds are giving it to him, which is, we believe in you, but we also believe we're a playoff team and you can't figure it out here. I hope he takes that to heart, figures it out, and gets back up here, because they're going to need him in August and September as things get serious.
I've often said, and it really stems more from the mind of David Bell than anybody else, but I've often wondered, where is the line between letting a guy work something out, letting a guy develop, letting a guy grow at the major league level, and winning baseball games? And it feels like Graham Ashcraft crossed the line of, okay, we cannot really let this play out anymore. You've got to work this out in Louisville. And I love the quote that David Bell had about this in the Inquirer article that I believe Charlie wrote about the demotion of Graham Ashcraft. And the quote from David Bell was basically, and I don't have it in front of me, so I'm not reading verbatim here, but basically David Bell was saying, look, we believe that he is a part of the best version of this team, but he is not the best version of himself. And so he's going to go to Louisville to find that best version of himself. And to kind of add on to the point that you made, the 5 starts and, not really getting that deep into the ball game, even the starts that he got into pitched 5 innings. The May 18th start against the Dodgers, the 5-inning start, he threw 106 pitches. The other start against the Dodgers, because of the weird schedule, May 24th start against the Dodgers, he threw 89 pitches in 5 1/3 innings. He's not being efficient right now, and that is who Graham Ashcraft is. Come hell or high water, when he is good, he is efficient. When he's not efficient, he's not good. He's not a guy that pitches to strikeouts and works around walks. He has got to get in and get out and get that lineup back up on the field. And when it's not working, that's not going to be the Graham Ashcraft that keeps the Reds in the ballgame.
And that's where the line is, right? You ask, where's the line? Where's the line of working it out at the big league level versus needing to go to Louisville to work it out? Well, the line is that in all of those starts, those 5 starts, you can go back even a little bit more than that. I don't have that in front of me, but I know you can go back further than that. And there is not any measurable improvement. Everything is kind of just staying the same, not getting any better. Wasn't really getting a whole lot worse, but he's not himself. And I think that's a very, rare truism from David Bell when talking about how a player is performing, right? He doesn't usually give us things like that. He doesn't usually give us the nitty gritty of what's going on individually with a player. But I think that's a very good observation. He's not himself, and he needs to go find himself to come back to the big league level and be successful.
So while he's doing this, the Reds have themselves a couple of different things here, because as we mentioned, the options aren't necessarily plentiful here. It's not as if the Reds are spoiled for choice. You could look at a couple of different things. And while Graham Ashcraft is figuring things out, hopefully it doesn't take too long. But I don't imagine this is going to be like, oh, he misses one start and then he's back up. The minimum of being you had to be down for 10 days and then you get called back up. I think we're probably without him for at least a couple of weeks here as he's working on some things, working on getting his command back and all that other stuff. So while that's happening, there's some movement that needs to happen in the major league rotation. We're going to look at what that is coming up next. Cash back. All right, now that I've got your attention, I want to tell you about Ibotta, this new app that I've been using to get cash back on my everyday purchases. It's very simple. It's an app that you download on your phone and you sign up for an account. In fact, sign up using the code LOCKEDONMLB and you'll just get $5 for using that code on the Ibotta app. That's IBOTTA. And you're going to start earning some cash back, because who doesn't want a little bit of cash back on your purchases all year long? Look, we're all trying to make ends meet. We're all trying to gain an edge. Ibotta is here to help with that, because it's a free app that gives you the most cash back every time you shop on hundreds of items, from groceries to beauty supplies and even toys as well. Like if you're like me and you want to grab yourself a Lego set every now and then, trust me, I get it. Ibotta is going to help you get a couple of cash back for that. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and start earning cash back. And use the code LOCKEDONMLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store, and use code LOCKEDONMLB.
Baseball season is moving right along, and you can make some cash on TJ Friedl and his performance over at Prize Picks. That's right. We've been telling you how great TJ Friedl's been, and he's a spark to the Reds offense. So if you think he's going to get on base and steal some bases, take more. Is he going to hit another homer? Take more. Hits, take more. TJ Friedl is just more right now. All you have to do is make your more or less pick over at Prize Picks today. With how well TJ's been playing, you can turn $100. You can turn $10 into $100 with just a few taps. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit the entry in less than a minute. They've got quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types. And that's what makes Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. So get in on the action today with Prize Picks. Just download the app and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for your first deposit match of up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for up to $100 match on your first deposit. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
You've got to check out Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. And speaking of every day, shout out to our everydayers out there. Appreciate you all helping us drive the ship here as we talk about your Cincinnati Reds and our Cincinnati Reds every single day. For our everydayers, coming up on the next Locked On Reds podcast, the Ohio Cup. It just means more. All right, Steve, let's talk about the rotation and how it moves, because Oh, everydayers will know that that's a joke. But no, we will talk about the Guardians series. The Reds and Guardians as they play 2 for some.
Wait, let's have a little poll. Get in the comments, folks, between now and the game in the Guardians series starting. Who is going to be the first person you listen to that says Indians instead of Guardians? I'm predicting it's Barry Larkin. Barry Larkin's going to slip up and call them the Indians.
I can see that. I can see Sam LeCure doing that on the pregame show. Does that count? Do we say that?
That would count.
I can see Sam LeCure doing that on the pregame show. And quite frankly, one of us may very well do that.
Well, it might be me or you, for sure.
I might do that to start the show tomorrow. Who knows? But anyway, we're going to talk about that on tomorrow's podcast because we got to get back to how the rotation moves, because with Graham Ashcraft now down in Triple-A, you have 4 starting pitchers on the roster. They did bring up Carson Spires and they put Emilio Pagan on the injured list. Another injured list stint for Emilio Pagan this season. He has been on and off that thing more times than I've been on and off the Cincinnati Bell connector. So when it comes to how this rotation looks the rest of the way, who are you going with? Because I think Carson Spires definitely entered his name into the hat yesterday. On Sunday.
Yeah, he without question has earned the opportunity to start a game for the big league club and see how he does. At the big league level thus far this season, Jeff, he's pitched in 5 games, 19 1/3 innings pitched. He's allowed 19 hits, so he's given up some contact. 5 runs, 4 walks, 15 strikeouts, good for a 2.33 ERA. He has shown me enough that I would rather see him start a game than go back to Nick Martinez, who for whatever reason forgets how to pitch efficiently when he starts the game versus coming out of the bullpen. I haven't minded when they've used Brent Suter as an opener for him and then bring him out of the bullpen. He just, for whatever reason, seems to pitch better under those scenarios. So for me, option 1, what they should do is start Carson Spires next time through and give him an opportunity to start. That doesn't help them in this first Guardians game coming up, but the next time through it does help them. So that's what I would do. In the first Guardians game, because Carson Spires isn't available, I would do a piggyback off of Suter and then go with Nick Martinez and then go back to a 5-man rotation with Carson Spires.
That's very likely what they're going to end up doing. I agree with you. There's something about the jog in from the bullpen seems to just jog his mind and he's ready to go whenever he gets to the mound, that being Nick Martinez. And there's a nice way, because like the whole lefty righty thing is always a fun thing to do when you have a bullpen day. See, Steve, this is what other teams who mean to have bullpen days do. Remember last year, whenever the Reds had a bullpen day, that meant we're going to throw everybody we have at it and see if anybody pitches well. This year, they actually have a plan. And the biggest thing beyond just the lefty-righty matchup that you can do with Brent Suter and Nick Martinez is that Brent Suter has a pace that is just absolutely neck-breaking speed. Like, he goes, man. Like, the batter really has no time at all to get comfortable in the box whenever he is pitching. And then Nick Martinez can come in and do his thing when the lineup's just all sped up. Like, in a perfect scenario, Brent Suter pitches 2 innings. Having just pitched on Sunday, there's a chance that he's probably only pitching 1 inning, maybe even less. Maybe he only throws a couple of batters. But the idea is you turn Jose Ramirez around for his first at-bat with Brent Suter, and then he gets to bat left-handed against Nick Martinez the next time he comes up to the plate. So there's definitely going to be that lefty-righty matchup on Tuesday. I think that I would like to see Carson Spires pitch. I put a little bit of caveat on that because some of his peripherals aren't fantastic in the 19 innings that he's thrown, but he's limited the walks, which you love. Keep them walks down, baby. And he's limited hard hit contact. So those are the kind of building blocks.
It's hard to argue against. It's hard to argue against giving him a chance, right? What he's done thus far. Given the situation that the Reds are in, it's hard to argue against giving him a chance. I wanted to piggyback on something. See what I did there? On something that you just said about Brent Suter is the times they've done this, they have only let him go 2/3 of an inning. He hasn't pitched multiple innings in those opener opportunities. I'd like to see them get away from that. If they could get 2 innings out of Suter, in this start and then go to Martinez, I think that would be the way to go. Obviously the game situation, gameplay is going to dictate what they do. But in the previous piggyback starts, that seemed to be the plan. Like, it didn't really matter what was going on. He pitched a couple batters and they yanked him. I would like to see him go into the second inning and see what he can do, and then go with Martinez from there. And the reason that all this matters, Jeff, the reason that we're talking about option A, option B, and not talking about, well, let's bring somebody up from Louisville. The fact of the matter is there's not a whole lot going on down in Louisville that leads me to be excited about calling somebody up. Let's start with Connor Phillips, highly talented prospect, who the Reds were looking to play a role in fighting for a rotation spot, is not having any kind of measurable success at all. He has started 12 games in Louisville, pitched 50 innings. In those 50 innings, buckle up, everybody. In those 50 innings, he struck out 45 batters. He's walked 46. He has control problems right now, and he needs to be nowhere near the major league rotation until he can get those under control. Lyon Richardson's another guy that has some big league experience. He started 12 games this season, 53 innings pitched. He struck out 50 and walked 40. He's also having his very own control problems. So those are the two guys that you would look to be able to come up and make a start and maybe have some success. The other guy with big league experience that you might could lean on is Brett Kennedy. He started 9 games in Louisville. He struck out 34 and only walked 8. So he's having better command and control issues, but he's got a 6.54 ERA. He's allowed a bunch of runs to score. I think the best option for the Reds is Carson Spires, piggyback Nick Martinez, and hope that Graham Ashcraft can figure things out in a hurry.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You talk about, words that hurt. Numbers can hurt too, because I felt the pain when you gave me that walk total for
Connor Phillips.
Connor
46,
Phillips' walk total
one more walk than strikeouts in 50 innings. That's something. That is not good.
That's painful. Hopefully it's something he can kind of fix here, because it would be nice if he is available later on in the season to help this pitching staff, but we'll see. There's been some speculation on him as a relief pitcher instead of a starter, but it's still really early on in his career to admit that change is coming. We'll have to see, though. Maybe that's the case. But yeah, Carson Spires looks like the best opportunity here, at least in the short term. And like we said, a few minutes ago, hopefully it is a short-term thing and Graham Ashcraft can get this thing figured out quickly.
Well, here's the thing, Jeff. No matter what the Reds do right now at the big league level, it's going to have impacts on this bullpen, because it's going to take arms that have been being used as relievers out of circulation while they fill these innings. Compounding that problem has been the performance of your guy, Alexis Diaz. And I think it's time to ask ourselves the question, should we be talking about finding a new closer? We're going to answer that question coming up next. Summertime means baseball. It also means the NBA Finals and so much more, and you can bet on all of it over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets back with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 that you can use to bet everything from the Finals MVP in the NBA to who's going to hit one out of the park for the Cincinnati Reds. Remember about 2 weeks ago when we said that FanDuel had the Reds odds at winning the division at about 13-1? Well, they said don't let those Reds get hot. They got hot, and FanDuel has cut those odds down in half. They're at about 650 right now, plus 650 to win the National League Central. So still good value there if you get in on it right now as they fight their way back into the National League Central. Just head to FanDuel.com/lockedon and you can win big to your bank account with $200 in bonus bets back with your first winning $5 bet. That's FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You can catch every pitch of the Reds' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Reds. Also, if you haven't done so yet, head over to CincinnatiRedsTalk.com. Jeff's writing over there. I'm writing over there. James Rapine's writing over there. Lots of folks that have been covering the Reds for a long, long time, now doing it in written form. CincinnatiRedsTalk.com. All right, Jeffrey. All of this means that there's implications to a bullpen that was highly addressed in the offseason, has at times found its groove. There's been some very pleasant surprises. We talked about Fernando Cruz yesterday and being a potential all-star. But there's been some disappointment out there, or if disappointment is too strong a word, there at the very least has been a lack of consistency from a few guys. Let's start with the very back end of this bullpen. You and I were both relying on Alexis Diaz to do Alexis Diaz type things for this bullpen. And thus far, whenever he comes into a game, I've got nothing but nerves. Seemingly the only thing that's consistent, the only thing that you can rely on from Alexis Diaz right now is to walk the first batter that he faces.
And maybe another guy, like he's got a horrible walk percentage at 16.5% so far this season, Steve. And it's bottom 3% in the league. That's been his biggest issue. Like when you look at everything, you look up and down the numbers and all this other stuff and be like, okay, well, what is it? It's walks. Because yeah, a relief pitcher is going to give up a hit every now and then. A relief pitcher is going to give up a homer every now and then. That just happens. But when it happens to him, there are more guys on base than should be, because he is coming in and he's giving up those free passes. There's been too many of those times where it's like the Reds got an insurance run in the top of the ninth to make a 2-run lead, a 3-run lead, and then the Reds win by 1 run. And it's a good thing they got that insurance run, because then they'd be going extra innings. I don't feel very confident right now in Alexis Diaz. And that's why we have to start with him, because he should be the guy that we have the most confidence in. And it's great that Fernando Cruz has emerged as that guy, but Alexis Diaz should be fighting him for that title. And right now he's not. Right now it's Fernando Cruz, and you're just kind of hoping that Alexis Diaz is having a good day. And I think some people are making this point that, well, he's pitching in a very strange schedule and things like this. Well, this is what we wanted for him. We didn't want him to pitch every day like he had to last year because we thought his arm was going to fall off. Well, now he's getting regular rest and he's pitching poorly.
Yeah, that was Sadak's point when I had him on a few weeks back, Jeff, that he wanted to wait to evaluate Alexis Diaz until he was used as a closer consistently. I don't know that we're going to get there the way that things have gone with this team and when they score runs in bunches. And this is what I know. Alexis Diaz walks per 9 right now is 6.7. Now, Fernando Cruz, as much as we've been singing his praises, his walks per 9 right now is 4.2. So he has some room to eliminate some walks as well. Here's the difference. Fernando Cruz is striking out 15.9 per 9. Alexis Diaz, a respectable 10 strikeouts per 9. But he's got to eliminate the free passes, because you're right. When he does give up a double, it lets a run score because he walked the first guy that he faced. Yep. It is problematic. You know, looking at this Reds bullpen, there is a walk problem, and it's pretty much widespread, because in addition to the numbers I just gave you for Diaz and Cruz, Brett Suter has a tremendous one at 2.1, but then you get into Lucas Sims, 5.8. So the big 3 arms, right? The big 3 guys that we were talking about, 7, 8, and 9. Oh my God. You go Lucas Sims, Fernando Cruz, Alexis Diaz. What a back end of the bullpen. Lucas Sims walking 5.8, Fernando Cruz walking 4.2, Alexis Diaz walking 6.7 walks per 9. That's unacceptable from the back end of your bullpen, the piece of your bullpen that you are relying on to be the lockdown guys. None of them are lockdown guys right now.
No, and that's the thing too with Sims is the walks, and the difference with him is when he's allowing that contact, it's a fly ball, and he's given up a couple of big time home runs this season. At least Alexis Diaz keeps the ball on the ground. Or I'm sorry, I was looking at somebody else. Again, still in Cruz.
Yeah, he's not keeping the ball on the ground, Jeff.
He's not keeping the ball on the ground. Anyway, that's something that we wanted them to do as well. And that's something that they're really going to have to work on. We've not seen that ground ball rate from any of the guys in the bullpen that we were expecting. Even Nick Martinez was a guy that we had kind of, I had singled out this offseason and said, I really want him because of his ground ball rate. And that's not been something that we can rely on a lot. So when you're walking guys and you're allowing balls in the air at Great American Ballpark, that's what turns into the rough thing. Yeah, Nick Martinez.
So let me ask you this. Looking at these numbers, looking at what everybody in this bullpen is doing right now, is there somebody that's performing better enough that you would feel more comfortable making the ninth inning shutdown guy, the closer, the stopper, whatever you want to call it? Is Fernando Cruz better enough that you're ready to make that switch right now?
Better enough. Yes.
Better enough. Because my answer is no. So you tell me.
Though, I love the way that he is being employed. And it feels as though this was the understanding, is that even if we have somebody that's better than Alexis Diaz, we want to maintain, and this feels like the understanding that Derek Johnson and David Bell have, that if he is better than Diaz, we want to keep Diaz in the ninth, and we want to use that guy in every single situation that we possibly can that is high leverage. That's become Fernando Cruz, and he has become so, I'm not going to say automatic, because no relief pitcher is automatic, but he has become so reliable in those situations. I don't think I want to take him off of that.
No, I agree with you completely. That is why I don't want to make a switch. I want to leave Alexis Diaz where he is and hope that he works through this. I'm not ready to make a move yet there, especially not with anybody else that's on this roster right now. You know, you can go through the list, and it's not Nick Martinez, not a closer. Buck Farmer, no. Brent Suter, no. Justin Wilson, no. Emilio Pagan's out, he's injured. Sam Mull, no. None of these guys are closer material. So I leave Alexis Diaz where he is, hope that Derek Johnson is working with him to resolve whatever it is that's going on, because you're right. Fernando Cruz has been the rally spoiler. He has been the shutdown guy, whether it's the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, whenever you need him to come in and lock things down before they get out of hand. Fernando Cruz has been your man. I want him to continue in that role. So if the Reds had somebody that I thought would be markedly better as the closer right now, I think Alexis Diaz has earned a demotion out of the closer role.
Yes. Yeah.
The problem is the Reds don't have somebody that I feel like is better enough to make that move and disrupt the flow of the rest of the bullpen. So for me right now, I'm sticking with what we've got and hoping that Alexis Diaz figures it out for the 9th inning and just stops walking dudes.
That's really all he's got to do. I mean, he's very good at not allowing hard contact. So even though it's not going on the ground, it's not very hard. And there's a lot of cases too where you see him walk two guys, then get a strikeout and a ground out double play, and the game's over. And those are so funny situations, because I still feel like I'm a little frustrated. Like, it's like, okay, the Reds get the win, but gosh, that 9th inning.
Oh, I'm seeing red. I'm pissed off from the walk. Like, he walks the first guy, and I'm just angry. And then they win, and I'm like, yes, they won, because he walked the first guy.
Yeah, no, that's how it feels sometimes. But that's going to be the interesting thing with this, because this starting rotation has been the strength of this ball club. But now, basically saying that you've got 4 guys, and you're just hoping that you got a 5th guy for the next month or so, like, that's the part of me that I think people try to get misconstrued, where they're just like, well, why'd you send Graham Ashcraft down when you don't have somebody else ready to go to replace him? I think that they believe they can kind of bubblegum and duct tape something together and get it to work, at least for the time that it's going to take him to figure things out.
That's the thing. This was not about putting somebody better in the rotation. That's not what the move was about. The move was about giving Graham Ashcraft the space to figure out what the heck is wrong. It's different. It's different. It's not like they had somebody else ready that was better. This is to try and fix Graham so he's available for a playoff push, not about putting somebody better in the rotation.
And that is where we end today's podcast. Thanks everybody so much for checking out today's Locked On Reds podcast. Make sure that you are subscribed on your favorite podcast app and right here on YouTube, because we're going to be with you all throughout the season, whether the Reds win or whether they lose. And with the Reds and the Guardians getting set to face off in the Ohio Cup, you can bet we're going to be all over that. It's going to be interesting, Steve, a battle between the number 1 and number 2 overall pick in this year's draft, and both teams are vying for a playoff. So in fact, the Guardians are one of the top 5 teams in the country based on their records. It's you got to love the lottery. But what can people expect from you and me the rest of the way?
They can expect you and I to monitor this series, check in as much as possible to keep you updated on the riveting Ohio Cup, gather up all of the information, and keep you locked on Reds every single day.
I appreciate the grammar check there. You and me, you and I, whatever.